I'm Kat and I play red. There's a few genres of games that I would generally say I'm not a fan of. However, there are always exceptions to those rules, and I like that. I get a bit excited when that happens. I'm not generally a fan of polyomino games, but today we're going to be looking at one. We are going to be looking at Planet Unknown. This is designed by Ryan Lambert and Adam Reberg and produced by Adam's Apple Games. The base game is available now, if you can find it. There was a Kickstarter project recently for an expansion and some other bits that we'll talk about. But for now, let's have a look at how it plays. Earth has run out of resources. You are a planeteer selected to develop an unknown planet to preserve the future of humanity. Win the game by scoring the most points via effective planet management, resource track advancement, collecting life pods, moving meteorites, and besting your neighbouring planets. So we're looking at the base game here. There are a few variations on this. We're looking at the most basic game because that's what you need to get played before you start adding fancy things. So all the players will have a matching Planet Unknown board with 6 life pods on the spots marked and their track player board with cubes on the bottom of each track and their 2 rovers. Also, we have selected at random some objective cards. Now these go between players. So myself and Purple are competing to have the least water resources on our planet, and myself and Green are battling to collect the most life pods. So whoever wins these objectives gets 5 points, and in the case of a tie, you're both going to get 2 points. So while you're building your planet, you need to keep an eye on these objectives and how your opponents are doing. So I have the first player marker. I am the space commander for this turn, and I get to rotate the Lazy Susan to wherever I want and take a tile. Now there are 6 different resources represented on the tiles. We have sieve, water, biomass, rover, tech, and energy somewhere. There, energy. And you'll notice there are 5 tracks, and we'll talk about why energy doesn't have its own track in a bit. Let's have a look at what tile I would like to begin with. I think actually I am going to go here, and this is my spot. I'm going to choose one of the 2 tiles available in front of me. My opponents then get to take from the depots in front of them. So green would get this choice, purple would get this choice, and blue would get this choice. For now, I'm going to take this little L-shaped tile. Now, water works in a slightly different way to any other resource. I can place it anywhere on the board, water. However, I only get movement on the track if I place it on a water space on the board, so one of these. The first tile I place must go on the edge of my board, so somewhere around the edge of the planet. And the tile placement rules are very much like anything else. You can't overhang the edge of the board, you can't stack tiles, and subsequent tiles must be placed adjacent to what is already on your board. But for now, we're going to place this. I'm on the water, so I'm going to move up this water track, and I get to move up 1 on the rover track. And if you can see this little symbol here, it means it unlocks my first rover, which has to go on the tile I just placed. Now, even though I have 2 water spaces, I still only move up 1 on that track. I also need to keep an eye though, because I want the fewest water resources on my planet to get that 5 points. So every time you place a tile, you're going to move up the appropriate track. So let's have a look at what the tracks give you. A lot of them have this little circle space here. This means if you move on to one of these spaces, you can move up 1 anywhere else. So if I'd move my tech to there, I'd get another movement up a track. The tech track gives me these special abilities depending on how high up I am. So if I get to level 1, my tiles don't have to be placed adjacent. You can store biomass and place at the end of the game, and we'll talk about biomass in a minute. +1 on your rover movement, double water advantage, and unaffected by meteors. So these will all unlock as you move up the tech track. Now, the rover track is going to give you a second rover when you get up here, but also give you movement. So you're going to get 1, 2, 3 or 4 movement of your rover. Now, your rover can only move orthogonally, and what you're going to do is you're going to use it to pick up things on your planet. So at the moment, I could use it to pick up this life pod if I had that much movement, and that would go there and score me points at the end of the game. However, if I then needed to place a tile there, I'd destroy the rover. If I placed a tile over any of these life pods, I'd destroy them and they'd be out of the game. So you can move your rover on the bare planet, but be careful because you don't want to destroy it. Then we have the biomass track, which has the circles that are going to give you the advantage, and these little tree spaces. These little tree spaces are going to give you biomass patches, which you have to place on your board immediately, unless you've got to level 2 on your tech. So these are kind of little single square spaces that help you fill in some gaps. Water doesn't have much in the way of special abilities. However, at the end of the game, as you move up, you're going to get some bigger points. The civilization track here, as you move up, you're going to get a chance to take these civ cards, which we'll have a look at in a bit. We also have these coin-like medals on the board, and these are endgame scoring. Anything in this gold circle is points which are all scored at the end of the game. So depending how high you get up the tracks will depend on your score. The last resource that we didn't talk about is energy, which is the brown stuff here with the solar panels. So let's actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just take this and place this energy tile. Now I'm going to move up 1 on my civ track because I placed that. Energy works as a kind of wild card. However, it can only be used for the resources you're touching. So in this case, it could be used as a civ or as a rover. In this case, I'm going to use it as a rover movement. I get 1 movement. Let's start moving towards that life pod. Oops, that should be on the board. Let's start moving towards that life pod to collect that off the board. So, We're going to move on to Blue's turn. They're going to pick a depot that they want. Let's say they want there, which gives me this choice here. Oh, I don't want water because I don't actually want to score water. I am going to take this tile, oops, if I can, and choose where to place it. Now, I want Raven movement as well. I'm actually going to place that there. Now, this little icon means I have to place a meteorite on it. Now, meteorites are both good and bad. At the end of the game, if you have a meteorite on a row or column, it's not going to score you points. However, I can use my rover to collect them, and at the end of the game I will get 1 point for each 3 meteorites I've collected. Let's do my actual turn. I'm going to move up 1 on the tech track and 1 on the rover track, which gives me 1 movement. Now right now I could collect the life pod or the meteorite. I'm actually going to collect that life pod, move that there, pop that there, and that's going to score me 1 point at the end of the game. But it also helps me towards this achievement, which is to collect the most life pods. So play will continue in this way. Blue took a turn, so green is going to take this. So these are my choices. Again, I'm going to go with a rover movement because I want to start shifting them. And you can flip and turn tiles whichever way you want. So I'm going to pop that there, which is going to give me 1 tech, which lets me advance up a track of my choice, which I'm going to start moving up the biomass. And I get 2 rover movement now. So I'm going to go 1, 2, collect this meteorite and pop it on my board to score at the end of the game. So what would I like? Let's have a look. I don't want water. I want to avoid water. I think I'm going to take this depot and I'm going to take this biomass and sieve. And do you know what? I'm going to pop it there because then I've completed that. So 1 there, 1 there. And I get 1 movement on anything else. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to choose a sieve card. So let's have a look at these. So some of these will be end game points. So simply put, 1 point at the end of the game, 2 points at the end of the game. These 2 are kind of like a set collection. So the more cards you choose like this, the more points you get. Bearing in mind, you're only going to get 4 opportunities. And a lot of these are going to be advancing tracks. I can advance 2 trackers once or 1 tracker twice. Take a tile from the depot, but I'm not going to gain the resources. 4 rover movement or a biomass patch. And what would I like right now? I think I'm going to take that biomass patch because it's immediate. I reveal the card and I must place the biomass immediately, and I'm going to pop that in the middle there and fill that gap. Obviously, if I'd got to level 2 on my tech track here, I could just pop that biomass somewhere and place it at the end of the game, but I'm not there yet, so I have to place it immediately. So keep that card in front of me and play will continue. And we will keep playing until we get to a point where someone can't fit a tile on their board or one of the depots is empty. So if all of these had gone, but they were still there, that's not empty. Both compartments must be empty to finish the game. So let's place some tiles and we'll come back and look at some endgame scoring. through the magic of editing, we've now got a fairly full board. It's my turn, and I'm actually unable to fit either of these pieces onto my player board. However, I still get to take a piece and go up the appropriate tracks. I'm not going to gain any of the benefits, so that's one tech. However, I'm going to go up one on the biomass, which is going to increase my score for the end game, which is kind of cool. So we then just discard that tile. Then, if you watch this channel at all, you'll know I do like a good score pad. I like to keep these on the table so that you've got an idea of what you're working towards during the game. So let's have a look at how we score it. Now, at the top, we've got the planet name and the corporation name. Now, these apply if you're using the advanced game, which we'll talk about in a bit. Planet. So let's score our planet. We're going to get the points indicated for every full row or column. So let's start with the columns. I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. Now, although this column is full, it actually has a meteorite on it still. So I'm not going to score anything for that. So what am I at? 5. 8. This one's not full. This one's not full. This one's not full. This one, 9. And again, I don't score this one because of the meteorite. So we have 9 on the columns. The rows, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, no score, 19, 21, 22, 23, oh, and 24 for that bottom one. So my planet would score me 24 points. So we just write 24 in there. Then let's move on and have a look at the resource tracks. Now, with the resource tracks, you're going to score any numbers you're on or lower. So let's have a quick look. I'm going to get 1. Well, let's start here actually. I'm going to get 2 for my sieve track, 1 for my water track, 2 for my biomass, 1 for my rover, and 1 for my text. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points for my tracks. So again, pop that onto the score pad. Life pods, you're going to get 1 for each life pod on your board. So here we have 5, that's 5 points. Meteorites are going to score you 1 point for every 3 meteorites. So I have 4, that's 1 point. Then we're going to have a look at the Civ cards. Now, the Civ cards I got, they were both immediate, so no endgame points for them. And lastly, we look at the objectives. So I'd need to count up the water resources on my planet compared to my opponent. Now, when it specifically says a resource, you're looking for these symbols. So what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4. I'd compare that with the player to my left and score 5 or 2 points. And the same with the life pod objective on this side. So I have 5. I'd have a look at how many my opponent has. If I beat them, I get 5. If we tie, we both get 2. Total up the points, and the player with the most is the winner. So, Planet Unknown is a polyomino game, but it's got several things that make it very different to a lot of others out there. Firstly, it plays up to 6 players, and because of the simultaneous action, it's not like there's a huge amount of downtime, even if you are playing with that number of players. I've played it at 5, I've played it at 6 with all new players, and it still doesn't take ages because everyone is doing stuff at the same time, which I like that. There are some other modules that come in this base game that you can add to the game. So the first thing we'll have a quick look at is the event deck. Now, the event deck, there's 60 cards. There's green alert, orange alert, and red alert cards. And what you're going to do is shuffle these up and draw 20 as your deck for the game. And that is another trigger for game end. So you take 20 cards and randomly, the green ones are good, the amber are and the red are bad. So that is one other thing. You can play it as a 2-player, and that actually adds something else to it, because you're only moving the Susan one space in a specific direction. So you actually know what is going to come up next, which I think plays quite differently to the multiplayer chaos that is, I have no idea where I'm taking a tile from. And then instead of a shared objectives, you're going to have a solo objective that you're trying to complete. It works at 2 players, but it's definitely a game designed for the big table. This Lazy Susan is really nice. It is a feature of the game. And the other thing to mention is that this middle bit comes out, so you can just swivel that around and you're not stuck with the same pairings each game. What we tend to do if we've played it is just then at the start of the next game, take all the tiles and swift them upside down that way. I can't even work it out. You get what I mean, because otherwise, you know, you put your tiles back at the end of the game and they're all in the same order and you're going to see the same tiles. So we try to just flip these over to give some variation. But obviously, there's a ton of different elements to this game. These were the base player mats. We have got a ton of other stuff in here. The mats are all reverse sided, so you have the basic game on one side and then you have different planets with different abilities and layouts and stuff. So once you've played it a few times with the basic game, you can add the advanced planets. So they're all slightly different, they all have their pros and cons. And also the same with these boards. So this was the universal board that we played with on our game. But again, these flip and we have asymmetrical benefits and boosts and things on these. So there is a ton of variation on the base game. I said at the start of the video, the expansion was recently on Kickstarter. Now we've backed that. One of the things it comes with is a lid for this Lazy Susan, because that's one of the big complaints, is the fact you've got to be very careful with this box. This is really neat, however it doesn't travel well, it doesn't stack well. You have to make sure your box is always that way, otherwise it's carnage. So there is going to be a lid for this Lazy Susan, which I'm quite looking forward to. And then there's some more Civ cards, and I think there's some more planets and stuff in the expansion, which is neat. So that is Planet Unknown. It's available now. The neat thing about this is we've played it a couple of times with a friend of ours who's new to gaming, and we've played the base version. There's loads of stuff you can add to advance the game. So if you are playing with a newer group or a more family-based group, you can play the basic game. However, if you want, you can make it far tougher, all with the base game, which is cool. Check it out. It's available now. It was nominated for Spiel des Jahres, even though it didn't win, sadly. So it is quite popular, so it is selling out, but you can grab it. You've just got to be quick off the mark. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click like, subscribe and all that stuff. We're going to have some Essen stuff coming up because that is in the near future. We're starting to get ready for that. So tune in if you want to have a look at what we're excited about this year at Essen Spiel. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.